Whoa, 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 yeah, we are in the place to be, yeah, 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 yeah.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Tacoma Cyclist. I am the Tacoma Cyclist, and with me on voice and in spirit is the Boogeyman.
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about some Zwift features. Particularly, we're actually going to be talking about the Zwift platform and on which types of devices it's going to work best, and some of the advantages and disadvantages of using it on the different platforms. We're going to look at the Zwift PC platform on a relatively high-end PC and then kind of a regular PC. We're going to look at the Mac OS platform on a 2017 MacBook Pro with the higher-end video card. We're going to look at it on the AppleTV 4K, and we're going to look at it on the iPad as the full-blown app, not just the companion app on the iPad. So those four platforms, which pretty much covers all the bases. Yeah, you can run it on an iPhone, and there's other ways you can kind of hack devices to make it run, but those are the four main devices people are going to use. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the advantages and disadvantages of all of these platforms. So first up, we're going to look at the high-end PC version here, and that's the version that I run. Unfortunately, the Boogeyman's got the mid-range PC, but that's because the high-range PC is mine, and he doesn't get to have it. That's the nice thing about being the dad. So first, let's talk about some of the benefits and the features of the high-end PC. I will say, kind of spoiler alert here, I think that that's probably the best platform to run, but there are some things that annoy us about the PC version. Most notably, Boogeyman, what is it that really drives us nuts about the PC platform?
Dropouts.
Dropouts galore, and that's because the PC platform uses Ant Plus, and that's the only way you can get signals in. Ant Plus is a proprietary format. It's run by Garmin. It's not a particularly strong signal, and it operates in the 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth like everything else in your house does. If you've got wireless phones, if you've got wireless internet, if you've got anything else that's sending and receiving digital signals over the air, chances are it's running on 2.4 gigahertz, and there's lots of collisions which cause mega dropouts. The upside to Ant Plus is that you can connect it to multiple devices at the same time. So if you want to have your cycling computer on while you're doing it, and I actually found that to be really advantageous because I can see my left-right balance on my Wahoo Element where I can't see it if I'm just using Zwift. So I like having that feature. But dropouts, they're so flippin' annoying. In another video, we'll talk about how you get rid of some of those dropouts. We went from having like 50 or more dropouts per 1 hour session to down to having like maybe one or two, and very frequently none, no dropouts. But we'll have another video on that shortly. One of the most notable qualities about the higher end PC, of course, it is probably the most expensive platform, arguably. I mean, you can spend less money on a PC than you would on a MacBook Pro, but it is one of the more expensive features because you've got to have the PC, you've got to have the monitor, you got to have the Ant Plus dongle, you got to have the Ant extender, or the USB extension cable, and all that. So it can be expensive. You can get a decent setup for $1,000, or you can buy something used and get it cheaper. But it's going to have some of the best graphics out there. If you see the screen here, you can see that it's actually relatively smooth overall. The graphics are very smooth. All of the additional features that they build into Zwift are all there, and they're all accounted for. Again, the biggest downside are the dropouts. You can't run Bluetooth on the PC platform unless you use your companion app and set it up as a bridge for Bluetooth. Okay, moving on to the MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro is probably actually right out of the box the most expensive, but one of the nice things about it is that you can actually use Bluetooth on the MacBook Pro for interfacing with Zwift. So if you have Bluetooth sensors, like we use the Wahoo Kicker here, if you use the Wahoo Kicker or any other type of Bluetooth low energy BTLE devices, we use Wahoo Ticker, heart rate monitors, we've got Quark power meters which have Bluetooth. All of those will interface with the MacBook Pro, and simply put, we just don't have dropouts, and that's a huge benefit. The downside is you can't connect any other devices, so you can't connect your device to other things. So if I was trying to see my information on my Wahoo Element, tough, you don't get to see it, unless you connect it via Ant Plus. But even then, it can be kind of spotty. So the MacBook Pro compares to the PC pretty well overall as far as user experience. The only thing I'll say is that the graphics, despite it being, this is a higher end MacBook Pro, this is not a lower end one, the graphics are not quite as good as the higher end PC version. Just for reference, the PC version that I have does have a 16 gig video card. The one in the MacBook Pro here does not. I think it's got an 8 gig, some of which is shared, but nonetheless, that's the highest end MacBook Pro video card there is still today, and the graphics aren't quite as good as they are on the PC. Now the Boogeyman here has been actually using, in some cases, has been using the AppleTV 4K. And overall, it's a pretty positive experience, but there are some things that are frustrating. And maybe the Boogeyman can tell us a little bit about what he discovered with connecting sensors to the Apple 4K TV, Apple TV 4K.
The Apple TV 4K can only sync 2 Bluetooth devices at one time.
Does it sync ANT at all, or is it just Bluetooth?
Just Bluetooth.
Okay, and if you wanted to sync more devices than just 2 devices from your sensors, like you use a heart rate monitor, the Wahoo ticker, you use the kicker, and you use your power meter for cadence, what do you have to do?
You have to sync it to the iPad.
Yeah, through your Bridge app, like your Wahoo or your Zwift companion app on the iPad or on the iPhone or even on your Android phone. Did that always work, or did you find out that sometimes your heart rate monitor wasn't working?
It didn't always work. It would when my heart rate was high, it would read low. When it was low, it would read high. It would read high.
Right, so there would be a lot of latency there, or even just some missed readings. It would just be way off. And in fact, we tried some Zwift races where we were using the Bridge app, and the Boogeyman here would put out a hard effort to try to chase a break or stay in a lead pack, and the effort was delayed by a good 3 seconds. And what would happen is the brake would get away, and there's the Boogeyman trying to chase, and his power isn't increasing until the brake's already gone, and then he has to catch up. So the Apple 4K TV, or Apple TV 4K, is probably pretty good for somebody who just wants to maybe do some Zwift workouts or something similar, but it is somewhat annoyingly frustrating if you're trying to do races or anything a little bit more aggressive on Zwift. Finally, the Apple iPad. You can see we use that here, and what we've done is we've just picked up some cheap mounts, and I've got some old lighting stands that are kicking around the studio here, and we just mounted them to the lighting stands. You can also mount them to your handlebars or right in front of the bike, however you want to do that. And it seems to work pretty well. The graphics are okay. It also uses Bluetooth, and the Bluetooth works pretty seamlessly on there. In fact, if I were just getting into this and I thought that I wanted a solution and I happen to have a decent iPad already, I would probably just use the iPad. It works really well. The graphics are, again, pretty good. They're okay. They're not on par with the higher end PC or the MacBook Pro, but they're not that far off, especially since you're looking at it on a small screen anyway. It really doesn't matter. If you have a MacBook or an iPad Pro, it probably even looks better, but the iPad works pretty well. The Bluetooth syncing between the devices is pretty solid. There's no lag, and overall the user experience is good. It's just you don't have that whole lifelike feeling of the computers because you don't have the big screen size. You have these tiny little screens. If you can get over that, it's actually a pretty good platform. Now, 2 of my favorite platforms overall out of this, and this is the reason why I said at the beginning that we like the PC the best, but the MacBook Pro is also good for this, is that I like to create my own workouts. I don't really like the workouts that come with Zwift for the most part. Some of them are great, but most of them really aren't. They're really targeting something that I'm not really interested in, or they go about it a wrong way. So I like to build my own workouts, but I don't always like to be sitting at my Zwift computer while I do it. So what I do is I build my own workouts on a different computer that I've got a laptop, and I can just build them anytime I want. And then I can share those with the Boogeyman, or I can share them with myself, or I can put them on a Google Drive, and it works great. I can import those files. There's ways to do that. You just go into the documents, and then there's Zwift folder, then you go to workouts, and you just drop those folders in there. It's a .zwo file. You drop those in there, and your workouts, you can transfer them from device to device. You can't do that with the iPad. You can't do that with the Apple TV 4K. So if you really want to use Zwift as a training application where you want to build your own workouts, which I think is phenomenal, it's really the best way to use Zwift, then I think that the PC or the MacBook Pro are going to be your best choices. Yes, they're a little pricey, but I think in the end, you get what you pay for. So that is our take on the 4 main different platforms that you can use Zwift on. Again, my personal feeling and my personal recommendation, I have access to all 4, and I choose to use the computer Again, we'll have another video here shortly on how to get rid of some of the dropouts from your Ant Plus to avoid having crosstalk on the signal or just dropouts in general. We'll have that video coming up shortly. But if you're getting into Zwift for the first time, or maybe you've got one of these platforms and you're kind of wondering what's better about some of the others, well, there you go. Better graphics on the PC, better extensibility. You can transfer your files back and forth. If you use Ant Plus and you want to use a computer at the same time, a cycling computer at the same time, it's going to be your best bet. So again, we feel that that's going to be your best bet, and that's what we use. Okay, thanks for stopping by. Be sure to click like and share these videos, and go ahead and subscribe. We really want to get to that 1,000 mark for subscriptions. So share this with your friends and subscribe, and send us in any comments that maybe you want to see some product reviews or more in-depth explorations on Zwift or race breakdowns. Thanks.